So today we're talking about kids and sex and pets. I love kids. Obviously, I love sex and pets, but kids and sex, which are an amazing and really fulfilling part of our lives, can actually ruin your sex life. So you may have fur babies or littles. When I start talking with a new client, I always ask them if they have babies or fur babies, because so many of us just love our animals so much that they are like babies to us. So this applies to you if you are in a relationship and you have fur babies or other babies, kind of human babies. So if you have fur babies or other babies, take a look at how they are impacting your sex life with your partner. One of the things I've noticed about people here in Bend, Oregon, is they're fantastic pet owners. They have these darling dogs, usually rescue dogs from southern Texas or somewhere. Maybe it's a Labradoodle or a something poo. There's so many interesting designer dogs or rescue dogs. And they are fantastic pet owners. So they get, boutique foods. They take them on all sorts of walks. They use all sorts of positive training to be with them, and they're really connected to their pets, which I think is fantastic. The problem is, however, that sometimes their relationship with their fur babies, with their pets, is more satisfying and more really expressed than their sex life with their partner. So they might be fantastic at taking their dog, and this might apply to you. Maybe you have a fantastic or cute or an adorable or whatever pet, dog, cat, whatever. I don't know. We don't have too many. I guess there's llamas and other things here too. But you have this relationship with a pet or pets, and you take that pet out. You do all the things you should. Say it's a dog, you take the dog on a 5-mile walk a couple times a day, and you are committed to that relationship with your dog. You are so good about understanding the needs of the dog. You enjoy providing for that dog. You get out, you use all sorts of positive reinforcement and connect, and you and the dog are just vibing, and it's amazing. And you're so happy that you adopted this dog, and it's working super well. That's fantastic. That's great. The problem is for a lot of us that we don't use the same skills and techniques with our relationship. So our sex life, the connection we have with a partner. So this might be you. You might not do the same things with your partner that you do with your dog. So now I don't mean taking your partner for a walk. I mean making time to connect with your partner, thinking about your partner's needs, thinking about how you can have satisfaction by enjoying connecting, enjoying spending time with your partner, and really making it a priority for you and your relationship to spend time, really connect with each other, and think about the other person's needs. When you take your dog for a walk, obviously this is great for your dog. It gives him, her, them, I guess, whatever dogs, gender dogs use. It gives the dog the exercise they need. It gives them the sense of smell, being out in the world, seeing other dogs, whatever. Maybe you're obedience training your dog and teaching your dog tricks. That's fabulous. My dog knows no tricks, but we do take him for walks. So maybe you're doing these things with your dog. You're kind of expanding and growing. Maybe you read books about how to be a better dog person, dog, parent with your dog. But you never think about your sex life or your relationship with your partner. You kind of just expect that to go on autopilot. So if this is you, I want you to think about how much time, effort, energy you put into your relationship with your dog compared to the time, effort, energy you put into being lovers with your partner. It might be really interesting to think about that. Like, how much focus do you put on your dog? How much do you care about your dog's well-being? How many treats do you get your dog? How do you tolerate the difficulties that your dog might bring in a daily situation? Or even, like making all of your, kind of like running your day around how your dog feels, which is an important thing. Honestly, I think it's really important to be a good pet owner or parent, but it sometimes is interesting to see that we don't do the same things for our partners or our partnership or our lovership that we do in this relationship. So anyway, think about that. You could even think about how the food that you provide your dog. Do you spend most of your time doing DoorDash for yourself and your partner, but your dog gets the raw food from the, I don't know if you get it at Safeway or Whole Foods or something. Maybe you do all of that for your dog, but you don't provide yourself and your partner great nutrition. This often happens, and I just think it's a place for us to look to see how we're prioritizing our own relationship, and particularly our sexual relationship. So the second thing I want to talk about that's similar is our relationship with our kids. So if you follow me, I have 6 children. 3 of them came to us in more of the traditional way. 3 are adopted. We have this great family. We're really happy about that. And when I was younger, before I became a sexologist, one of the things that happened in my life is I became so into parenting and being a super mom and all about the Halloween costumes and all sorts of things. Gosh, it was crazy. Things that I used to do, Girl Scout cookies and, soccer and all the things that I did for my kids or about my kids, really about myself being a mom. But that's another story, why it was that I was so engaged with my kids when they didn't necessarily need or want that. It was more about me being a good mom. So if you're a mom or dad, how is your parenting impacting your relationship, your feeling of being a mom or dad? Now, one of the things that I know is true, and I wrote about this recently, is that our body images are really impacted by pregnancy, nursing, and the other pieces if you give birth physically to a baby that you might have experienced. So it can be very challenging for you after birth, after you've, brought this baby through your body and then brought it out of your body. And now you're feeding this baby, maybe with a bottle, maybe not. And somehow navigating that whole postpartum period is extremely challenging for you. If you're not in that period of time anymore, you still know that the experience of having children or adopting children means that your body is no longer really your own. Even if you haven't been pregnant with children, the kids are on you, you're holding them. It's a physical job, and you get a lot of physical contact holding, being with children. This is true for women, men, and non-binary people, that we are physically connected to kids because they're climbing on us, they're hugging us, we're holding them. There's just so much time that kids spend in our energetic bubble. So it's often true for us that we can't even desire to be touched anymore because we get so much touch in our parenting. Now, Esther Perel talks about this in her book, Mating in Captivity, that for many women, the erotic need to be touched is completely filled by babies. And this is one of the reasons for women in the early going, when they're first holding and being around their infant, that there's less interest in connecting sexually with a partner. This may be happening in your life, and it's completely normal just to accept and know that. But it continues because babies and kids, there's a physicalness to it, and it can cause you, I probably noticed if you're raising kids, to be really exhausted. You may have this overwhelming sense of responsibility that comes over you, comes over us when we recognize that this little person, came through us or is our child, and that we are the people who today, tomorrow, and forever. And let me tell you, as somebody who has kids who are grown up, it does not change. So even though Ray is 35 years old almost, I still worry about her and have the same sense of, momness around it. Like, how's she doing? Oh my gosh, I hope everything's fine, etc. Right? It doesn't go away. Just like a spoiler alert, it doesn't go away. You will forever have this sense of responsibility, not just to your child, but to your children's children, this sense of the legacy which comes through us, which is a beautiful and amazing thing for us. We are coming from our ancestors. And for those of us who have kids, we're bringing that lineage forward. And if you don't have kids that you've brought into the world in your own body or through adoption, you are also connected to children probably in your life in some way or another as an auntie or in some way. So that when we're around kids, their energy can really deplete us. I always say that I think the kids suck our energy, and that's out in the night when we're sleeping, and that's how they are so full of it in the morning. My little grandson is just amazingly active. He turns 1 tomorrow, which is fabulous, but he's a very active little boy. He can already almost climb out of his playpen, and he's not even 1 year old yet. So good luck with that, Ray, and stuff. So it's really a lot of responsibility, the safety of your child, which is one of the reasons that when they go to sleep and they look so peaceful, we are so happy, because that's the moment we can just, and maybe you're feeling this, that's the moment that you can finally just, take a deep breath or finally exhale for the first time today. Exhale when your baby goes to sleep, or your kids are asleep, or they're safely at grandma's and you're comfortable with grandma, or they're at daycare, or they're at school, or whatever. I guess kids are at school again, yay. Whatever is happening, you know that you can exhale, because for that moment at least, you are comfortable that your child is safe and held somewhere good. People ask me, how are your kids? And I say, I think they're fine. I haven't checked my phone, because, maybe something's happened since the last time we talked. I think they're fine. And right now, if you ask me, I think they're fine. But again, I haven't checked my phone. So the responsibility of being a parent is very impactful on you as a sexual person, because in order to be sexual, you have to be able to let go and get out of your head and release any kind of stress or anxiety that you have, because stress and anxiety really are not going to allow you to be open as a woman, to be producing as a man. You can't do that when you're feeling a lot of stress and anxiety. So you need to feel relaxed, excuse me, and able to really be in a receiving mode when you are going to be sexual. So the other thing that's interesting and challenging for you if you're a woman is being a mom and a sex partner at the same time. This is cultural for us, and it's not true for every culture. Lots of cultures, there's, the moms and dads are sexual, in a small room or a tent or some other place. So the children grow up hearing sexual activity as a normal part of daily life. We in the US are extremely tight about this. I've talked about this before, that many of us, particularly women, are exceptionally worried that the kids are going to hear us being sexual. I may have discussed the idea of female copulatory vocalization here, which is the female calling out sexually to potentially people outside the room. It's kind of our biology that we're making sex noises, and women don't want their children to hear them making sex noises usually in our culture. And so that can be something that causes you to not want to be vocal when you're sexual. And this is just part of what it is a challenge to be a mom and a sexual person, or a sexy person, or sexually engaged person at the same time. It's a switching thing that lots of us do. So we don't hold our sexuality and our mothering in the same frame. I encourage you to try to open that frame a bit more so that you can have more experience of being your whole self and a mother and a sexual person. Because when you're a sexual person, it doesn't mean you have to be overtly sexual, but when you're a sexual person, what you're doing is showing your vitality, or allowing your children to see that you are a sexual being, that you have a connection to your sexuality, that you have a connection to your partner. If that person is, a parent of theirs, that's fantastic. If it's a lover or someone else, that's also great. It's showing that you are a sexual person. Lots and lots of moms won't even kiss in the kitchen, if the husband or partner, grabs them or touches their breasts or buttocks or genitals, it's considered, reprehensible, terrible to be seen that way. And yeah, I want to give you permission. I am giving you permission to let go of that and to stop worrying about being seen as sexual as a woman in your home. It's one of the places you get to be sexual. And we have cordoned that off. We have created just this very small space, which might be our bed, and our bed in the night, in the dark, when everyone's asleep. And if you have teenagers, you know that they never go to sleep. Honestly, I don't think, do they ever sleep? No, they don't. If you've got little kids, they also never sleep. I mean, like 7-year-olds sleep maybe for a couple weeks. Joke. But the point being that if you're waiting for complete privacy in your house where there's no one who could possibly hear you, or maybe you're on a getaway in a Marriott somewhere so that you can actually have enthusiastic sex, and that's the only time you let yourself go, it's going to be few and far between. And particularly during the pandemic, like who's doing weekend getaways? There are no galas anymore. Back, when the women would get dressed up in fancy dresses and wear high heels and walk around kind of looking, getting it going on at the galas. That's not happening. So you're doing date night at the olive tree, but maybe they don't do that anymore. I don't know. It's just been challenging for lots of people, lots of women, to stop feeling like they are only moms in a house with a dad or a partner who is also in the house all the time, probably wearing sweatpants. Am I right? It's a challenge to even feel like you wanted to do it. So, so it's important to stay connected to your vitality, to your turn on. And it doesn't have to be in partnered sex. It can be self-stimulation, self-pleasuring. You can lock the door. I give you permission when people are sleeping, or maybe watching a television thing or listening to something on Zoom. You have permission to connect with yourself sexually, to masturbate, to give yourself pleasure. I think it's fantastic for you. It's really good for your health. It helps you if you are an orgasmic person to have orgasmic response. And if you don't see yourself as an orgasmic person, so if you say, "Oh, I don't ever have an orgasm, I don't ever come," message me. I will help you. Well, I won't go over there and help you, but I will talk to you. I will talk to you, and I will tell you how to do that. Honestly, there's some really great things that you can know. The first one, just FYI, is claim your peak pleasure today, whatever that is. But we can talk about that later. Send me a message or call me. All right, next thing I want to talk about is kids in the bed or pets in the bed. So if you have kids or pets in the bed, again, how are you possibly going to have the kind of energy in your bed where you want to be having sex in our culture? Now, if you have a different cultural background, I totally get that. But in our culture, it's not likely that you're going to be really sexual in the bed with your kids or pets in the bed. So I welcome you to move your kids or pets out of your room, at least during the time when you might want to be sexual and connect passionately with your partner. Give yourself a whole bed to stretch out. You don't have to be just, stuck with like a cat and a dog in between your feet, or a baby right between you. It's okay for them to have a little space to themselves. Now, lots of babies and kids are being monitored on these amazing baby monitors, which are good and bad. I was thinking about this when our grandparent was here with us a while ago. One of the problems with the baby monitors is you hear every single thing that baby does. And so every little peep, every little everything, you hear it. Back in the day, babies really had to make a point of waking us up. We did have baby monitors, but they weren't as sensitive. And before that, babies really had to make a point of waking their parents up. So when you have one of these little monitors there, it's pointing out to you every single moment that baby is, turning over or making a little or something in the night. And it gives you the feeling that, you can't ever get a break. You can't catch a break. Maybe turn the baby monitor off for a little while, or put one of you in charge of the baby monitor when you're making love, so that the other person doesn't have to actually listen. This takes some discipline and it's a mindfulness practice. It's a sexual mindfulness practice to let go of being distracted in your sex. And this is something you can learn over time. There's a reason for this, and that is that your relationship with your partner is the most important thing in your family. Now, you may or may not believe or agree with that, because of course the babies are so important and fur babies are so important. Yes, I agree with that. I think you're right about that. We need to be responsible for and take care of our children and our fur babies. That said, when you are with your partner, that's the core place of power and connection that will, for the rest of your child's life, give them security. So please be responsible and take care of the health and safety of your baby. But remember that this core place is critical to you and your partner maintaining the connection that you have and not getting into a situation where you feel awkward or embarrassed or have difficulty talking to each other about sex and connection. Does that make sense? I'd love it if you don't, if that's not happening for you, message me and I'd be happy to jump on a virtual coffee with you to talk about that, the critical importance of your sex life to your children. Like, that is something I firmly believe. Your sex life and you being a sexually expressed person is critical as a parent, as a mom. It's critical for you to stay connected to your juicy self and not let that disappear, because it is what feeds your vitality. All right, so fatigue is obviously an issue that comes into play, and perhaps it just, everything I've said, you can't even hear me because you're sleeping or you're so exhausted. And honestly, it's so true that babies and fur babies and big kids and teenagers, all this is really tiring for us, mostly because we care about it, right? It's they're busy, they're doing all sorts of things, they're all over the place, and we care. And so we're attending to them, we're sending them our energy, and that takes energy. So it's, again, kind of draining us so that we can keep our eyes on our kids. I remember when we finally had, like, our baby was 5 or 6 and they could kind of cut their meat if it wasn't too hard. They could, maybe at some point they could take a shower and, cut their meat and maybe eventually do their own laundry and manage themselves. It's a relief of attention. The fact that I spent so much attention, of my personal attention, on people, little people, I get it. It's really tiring. I totally get you. It's exhausting. And when it's your first baby, honestly, it's harder, or your second baby, because you're not used to it. It's like, kind of like breaking in a pair of shoes. You got to get used to it so that it becomes more natural for you. So you're exhausted. I hear you. I know people are exhausted. You're probably exhausted. But, there's some cures for exhaustion. There's some solutions. One, napping. People used to tell me that. I thought it was crazy. Like, you nap and the baby naps. I was, really? That's never going to work because I have 5,000 things to do. But between you and your partner, or if you don't have a partner, if you're doing this solo, you get a friend or your mom, or if you don't have a mom in the community, you hire maybe a babysitter or trade with another mom so that each of you can get like a solid nap and really get some rest and fill yourself up. Stay hydrated, get plenty of sleep, eat good food. These are really important things. Get some walks in. Most kids will walk with you, or if you can put somebody in a stroller, take your dog for a walk. Obviously, we talked about that earlier. So the 4 things that are important for you to have a great sex life, even though you've got kids or animals, fur babies, cats, dogs, I don't know, ferrets, whatever. Number 1, make your relationship a priority. Realize that it's normal for you to have challenges during this time when you're balancing these things. Make sure you know that it is normal. Find private time to connect, including, privacy within a space and time, so that you don't feel like you're going to be interrupted all the time by any of those beings who are in your household with you. And the final thing is, get some sleep, beautiful. Get some sleep, because you're tired and you need your sleep. So get some sleep so you can have great sex. I'll talk to you next week. Bye bye.